It's time to tap into our authenticity and shine our truth. Hello again, Brian here to give you your Astrology Horoscope report for the full moon in Aquarius that occurs on Thursday, August 15th at 5:29 a.m. Pacific. Although that's the exact time of the full moon, I'll be covering the energy unfolding over the next couple weeks. Before I jump into the full moon symbolism, it's important to talk about Jupiter. Jupiter in the sky right now, as I mentioned in the last video I did, is in the process of what's called stationing. It's officially stationed on the 11th, but basically what that means is, from our perspective here on planet Earth, it looks like Jupiter is slowing down into the sky to a standstill. And then on the 11th, and after the 11th, it starts to move forward. It's been in retrograde, now it's going direct. Now, although the exact day of the station is the 11th, we're really feeling the influence of this station about a week on either side of the 11th. Whenever a planet is stationed, it's at maximum power. That, coupled with the fact that it's been traveling through its own sign, its own home turf of Sagittarius this year. So we're getting this massive Jupiterian pulse that really pervades all the other symbols we'll be talking about during this full moon period. It's stationed at around 14 degrees of Sagittarius. So if in your own personal birth chart, you have sensitive spots around 14 of Sag, or really any of the mutable signs like Virgo, Pisces, or Gemini, you'll be feeling Jupiter's influence super strong. The conventional astrology approach to Jupiter is that it's the planet of luck and expansion. It's been named the Great Benefic. So jolly Jupiter rolls around like Santa Claus and spreads, cheer and good fortune. And this is very valid astrology. The toast does tend to land butter side up 72% of the time during Jupiter times, especially if it's hitting a sensitive spot in your chart. And if you have a lot of Sagittarius in your chart, this year in general, as Jupiter travels through its own sign, it started in November of 2018 and will continue till the end of this year in December. This is, in general, a good year for you, a lucky year, of expansion. In what area of your life? Well, it's helpful to look at, what house it's in your chart, for starters. And if you want a more intimate understanding of your own birth chart, you can find a link below and find a list of my services. Now, the conventional and evolutionary astrology perspectives on Jupiter are not opposite, but they are quite different. The evolutionary astrology perspective requires or invites our own participation and not just sit back and enjoy some luck, which is nice too. Okay? Now, the question actively with Jupiter, the king of the gods, who wants us to have more faith in ourselves. Good Jupiter questions are, how am I underestimating myself? How have I settled for so little? By sitting with these questions honestly, we can pinpoint areas of our lives where we have compromised our own fulfillment. Enter Jupiter saying you are ripe for a victory. Jupiter is the faith builder. If you can move forward with courage to claim your total worth, you can lean on the Great Benefic and have faith that you will be victorious. Now, as we turn our attention to this full moon, it's in the sign of Aquarius. But we also have 4 planets in Leo: Mercury, the Sun, Venus, and Mars. And then we also have Uranus in a square to that Mercury in Leo. And Uranus is the planet that rules Aquarius. So a very strong pulse of Aquarian and Leo energy. The Aquarius-Leo axis here. For starters, we have a strong foundation of Leo energy for the Aquarian full moon to really springboard off of. I talked about Leo a lot in my last video. Leo the lion, the king of the beasts, so it's about roaring, It's about letting our inner light shine. It's about creative self-expression. And Venus, the goddess of the arts in the sign of the performer, really underscores this idea. And then we have Mercury in Leo, which is about our perceptual filter, how we speak. So our speech template is more warm and expressive. And then Mars, the god of war, is in the sign of Leo. Now, warriors face their fears to evoke courage. It kind of has a rock star feeling to it in Leo. It's facing your fears and getting out on stage, so to speak. The emphasis here is to develop our courage through the act of expressing to others what's in our heart. Now, Aquarius is known as the sign of the rebel or the revolutionary. It's one of the most freedom-seeking signs in the entire zodiac. It's about the process of raw individuality, to choose one's own path, to do what you feel like doing, to take orders from no one, which is no easy feat with cultural programming, family pressures and society pressures, and conformity. All humans learn a lot through mimicking, and a lot of us are brainwashed to various extents. So, Aquarius's mortal enemy, so to speak, is the tribal instinct. We are all a combination of what I call our soul's personality, which is our core, true essence, which has been evolving over many, many lifetimes. We have that on one hand. And then on the other hand, we also have what I call our acquired personality, which is basically a summation of learned behavior from, family psychology, the larger framework of history, society, and the time we're born into. And we don't really know the difference between the two aspects of our personality, our true soul essence and outside influences. So the evolutionary path for Aquarian energy is the raw, flawless, uncompromising expression of self, individuality perfected. So during this full moon, which is reflecting the shining light of our creative processes, the trick is to feel into who we really are, express that out into the world, and learning to become comfortable with our own unique perspectives. We are all very individual, intricate puzzle pieces, kind of like snowflakes. None of us are exactly alike, each with our own specific frequency. And each of us has something very specific and important to share with the world. Some of us don't know exactly what that is. Some of us have an idea, and some of us are certain. But regardless of your convictions about your own, spark of genius, during a full moon in Aquarius, now is a perfect time to let spontaneity dance through our expressions and let something different, something unique be revealed. Aquarian energy is the engine that drives social change. It's inventive. And now we're ripe for new ideas and perspectives. So with creative energy at its maximum, new ideas can abound, and we can all do our own little parts within collective consciousness. I'll also mention that there's a lot of fixed energy here. Aquarius and Leo are both fixed signs. Uranus rules Aquarius, and it's in Taurus, also a fixed sign. So these are stabilizing signs. So we can leverage this grounded, stable energy and utilize its resource, which is unescapable, unbending stubbornness. Armed with fresh ideas, Aquarius can really stand its ground, and it's immovable. A good place to be with this energy is like, if you like what I have to share, that's great. If not, that's interesting, And, of course, we can easily see the shadow side of this, which can be a bit grandiose through, the Mars and Leo energy, a bit egotistical and forceful, maybe a bit, busting out the soapbox and being a bit of a preacher. And that's not the highest expression here. It's more about standing your ground, having faith in your own ideas, living by example, and not wavering in the face of judgment. Now we should tie in Venus here as well, because during this full moon, she'll be directly opposite the moon. So Venus is the goddess of love in the sign of Leo, the performer. Okay, so creative partnerships. Maybe some new creative partners come into your life, or maybe you reignite some old ones or enliven some current ones. But collaborations would be great now. Some people have some ideas that will spark your own ideas and will lead to new ideas collectively. But since this is an opposition here, we definitely want to look at the challenge. And the challenge of this would be basically adopting somebody else's ideas as your own. But instead of doing that, allow them to stoke your own creative fire so that you can further individualize towards that Aquarian energy. Now, circling back to the beginning, to the aforementioned, Jupiter, the king of the gods, those evolutionary questions with Jupiter, which are, how am I settling for too little in my life? How am I underestimating my own creative potential? And how am I undercutting the value of my own strange voice? Now, when I say the word strange, I mean compared to the mainstream. Those questions will feed faith into our uncertain inner obscurity to uncover buried treasure. And the treasure is our, soul's unobstructed light. Jupiter is and has been in an ongoing square with the planet Neptune. It has been all year, will continue to be until October. So Neptune is the god of the sea, which is a metaphor for the sea of consciousness, collective consciousness, mystical, spiritual Neptune. Okay. Now, when these two are dancing together in the sky, this creates a perfect storm for inspiration for an ideal reality, a utopia, whether in our own personal lives or out there on the world stage. Meditation can be quite fruitful here. Now, the benefits of meditation is really an endless list, but it can open our antenna to creative insights. It's like, where does creative inspiration come from? Often those light bulb moments come from, above. So by utilizing meditation, you place yourself in a perfect position to receive those insights and can become the conduit for the muse. Neptune and Jupiter creates a very lofty and dreamy scenario. Okay, so what is the ideal reality you would like to create in your life? This is a beautiful time to practice manifestation. Like, for example, creating a vision board for the reality you'd like to bring into your life. So Aquarius, the engine of social change. What dream can we engineer for the betterment of collective evolution? Whether in your small town, or just in your home, or in your city, state, country, or the world. Jupiter wants us to think big. Jupiter wants us to dream big. Now, turning our attention to after the full moon. Right around the 18th of the month, when Mars enters Virgo, on through to the rest of the month, we have Mars entering Virgo, then Venus and the Sun and Mercury all entering Virgo. So this major shift from Leo to Virgo. Virgo is the sign of work. It's an earth sign, so it's about making things real. So we are transitioning from, the hotbed of creative genius and into, how can we make practical steps to bring it into fruition? So now it's time to let the dream take shape, take form, and concretize, and make little baby steps towards that end goal. Okay, but taking action is really key here, because Virgo can be a bit of a perfectionist and can become overly worried about, doing everything just right. So there's a potential trap to endlessly prepare and never start, So taking little baby steps towards an end. And this is driven by the Virgoan impulse to really do the right thing and be very helpful in this world. Now, turning our attention back to this full moon for a moment. Leo and Aquarius are really opposite sides of the same coin. Although they have really different energies and styles and ways about going about things, what they have in common is truth. Whether it be expressing the truth of our hearts through acts of creativity, that's Leo, or the raw truth of our soul's, unique nature, Aquarius, truth is the common denominator. And even with Jupiter in Sagittarius, Sagittarius is about truth. Sagittarius is known as the philosopher, and that's the intuitive function to understand what this is all about. Like, why are we all here? Where did we come from? So high expression of Sagittarius is a researcher of truth with a capital T. The investigation of cosmic principles and the truth therein. So to shine our truths is to be a lighthouse, a beacon of hope for change in a sea of lost dinghies, and to have something to share with the evolution of humanity. That's shining our truths. And that's the evolutionary aim, with the goal always to expand our consciousness.